crooks, criminals, priests, and anyone active on this god-awful page. The world is a sad mixture of highly suspicious people, and as the cycle of life dictates, these people will reproduce, and inevitably, some of those kids will create chess.com accounts. But for some unfortunate reason, none of them can ever seem to cross that 1000 rating mark. Sound familiar? That's because it's you, isn't it? But as dreadful as you are, there is Cart DXB and Jihan 1911. These two are uniquely horrendous. That's because they've invented an opening that might genuinely be the worst opening in chess. We'll study two of their most brutal losses and learn a very important chess opening principle. But at the end, I, myself, will use that very same opening against a 2000 rated opponent to show you how symptoms of childhood neglect may actually be a surprise weapon at the higher echelons of chess. Hi, I'm Mortal Chess, and with these 3 moves, the gene pool is already in Afghanistan. Yes, diabetes wasn't enough. Your father had to leave you with his greed, treachery, and thirst for quick wins. This, my friends, is the famous scholar's made attempt. But after knight f6, g4 is the genius invention we are studying today, the special needs variation. And that brings us to our first important lesson. Do not move your queen around while your king is still in the center. As a matter of fact, do not move any piece multiple times in the opening. A chess game is about 50 moves long. There is plenty of time to show your opponent your terrible upbringing. So what if, and I know this is a crazy idea, what if you make sure your king is safe first, before you show your opponent what you are truly made of? A simple knight e2 in this position would avoid moves like knight d4. And now, not only should you see that your queen is under attack, but you also have to see that the c2 square is threatened. That's not very easy to do without a present father figure. So, instead of retreating the queen to d1, we see queen g3, and knight takes c2 check, is only the beginning of white's misery. The king goes to e2, the rook drops, and finally, the move white has paid a full rook for, g5, is on the board. Except, it only works with the queen on g3, so that as soon as the knight moves, it's checkmate on g7. Now we get knight takes e4, hitting the queen. The queen moves to g4, because keeping an eye on the g5 pawn is very important to Jihan 1911. Because after knight captures, he plans to self-destruct with queen takes g5. It's only move 9, but let's take a second and look at white's position. If these chess websites were interested in making the world a better place, a -9 position on move 9 would send an instant alert to child services. And if they find a grown man playing this? Straight to jail. Yeah, we need to clean the streets for the incoming batch of higher rated immigrants. But white decides to take things further into the realm of pseudo-masochism. He continues playing. A pattern of behavior in which an individual chooses to place themselves in situations that lead to disappointment, or abuse. A lot like letting your in-laws move in. Who will then, without fail, open your door to Jehovah's Witnesses. And now, look at all these people that shouldn't be here. True story by the way. But credit to white, he does not fall for the queen takes b2 trap. Capturing the queen offers a little bit of hope, but the position is still -9. So if you have any sense of urgency, bishop takes b7 is the move. Because without your help clearing the board, your opponent might botch the conversion, so in a way, you're still better than him. But if you want to stop pretending to be better than your opponents, and actually put in real work toward breaking 1000, here's what you do. Go to chessreps.com, the sponsor of this video, and don't leave that website until your openings are rock solid. They just uploaded the King's Indian defense, and I absolutely love this warning. You just know they've been down some serious King's Indian rabbit holes. But what chessreps.com does, is it walks you through every move, step by step, in a Duolingo-like, gamified way. It then beats them into your thick skull with time trials and drill mode. I'm saying you can finally stop entering lost middle games, and blaming the pairing system. You know who exactly to blame. But jokes aside, you can start completely free, no account, no commitment. So click the link in the description, and take your openings to the next level with chessreps.com. But then there is Cart DXB. Scholar's mate meets knight f6, and as soon as g4 is played, believe it or not, the engine is already at -4 in favor of black. This sub 1000 player chooses the correct move to punish this greed, knight d4. The queen has to find a way to move and protect the c2 square, so queen d3 was chosen by our mastermind. But since this is a sub 1000 rated game, we see knight back to c6, an unprompted retreat from a precious square, followed by c3, hitting a knight that is no longer there, evidence of time travel perhaps. But what about the pawn on g4, the main character of this opening? After knight takes, we get queen back to f3, hitting the knight, and we're back to the lesson we were talking about. You do not move a single piece multiple times in the opening. That is a core chess opening principle. It has a simple reason. It's trying to trick you into developing your minor pieces equally, naturally steering you toward the most important move of the game, castling. But this is the position on the board. And in the next game, you will see how 2000s punish this degeneracy. A high-level way for black to protect the knight here would be d6. But black opted for the boring knight back to f6, and then knight h3. This move further rubber stamps how trash this opening truly is. The idea is knight g5, hitting f7. This square is the entire philosophy of the opening. But having an attacking target was never the purpose of a chess opening. Those are middle game plans. In the opening, you develop your pieces, ideally toward the center. So, whenever you see your opponent play moves like knight h3, away from the center, something weird is going on, and likely, something you should be punishing. But say you had a decent childhood. You've developed your pieces, ideally to control the center. You've castled your king. And now, well, now is the time where you find a target. You study the position, find your strengths, or your opponent's weaknesses, around which you will form a middle game plan. But you can only play like this, like how this mastermind is playing, when you have gained superior development in the opening. And that's usually by gambiting a pawn, or through truly terrible play on the opponent's part. Without that, all your attacks will hold no water. After bishop c5 was played, knight g5 was the plan. All black had to do was castle kingside and bye-bye attack. But perhaps the most horrid breach of chess opening principles is the next move. In this position, I personally would be thinking of moves like d3, developing these two pieces, and then finding some type of safety on the queen side. And then, I would start looking at the open g file, and how I might use it for an attack on black's kingside. But queen f5 by white. I mean, he has now made 4 moves with the queen in the opening, only to fall for the brilliant move played by black in this position. Pause the video if you want to find it. d5. Hitting the bishop is the move. And if you did find it, maybe your childhood wasn't that bad after all. Think back to those morning cartoons on the weekend. Their subtle message that, girls are nothing but the embodiment of all things good. So she probably thinks your big nose is kinda cute. And all you need to kickstart the relationship, is a very grand, very public display of your affection. Yeah, we've all been there. Let us know when exactly the depression kicked in. Anyway, our genius responds immediately to the threat, e takes d5, only to find out that the queen too, is on the chopping block. But true to his nature, true to his upbringing, he continues playing. And white continues the flawless integration of belt and ass. Up until... And there's no way to stop queen e2 checkmate. But I'm not the type of person to point out your flaws, without showing you the healthier way to play an already trash opening. And then follow it up with g4, the special needs variation, against a 2000 rated opponent. Yes, I can do that, because I had a stable upbringing, and also because 2000 rated chess players suffer from the famous imposter syndrome. Yeah, they panic as soon as you bring the play back to their chaotic sub 1000 days. My opponent goes for d5. The idea is correct, my king is in the open, and his, is 1 move away from safety. So, let's rip everything open and see what the baby looks like. 2000s are drunk on principles. But the concrete, 500 rated plan of knight c6 to d5 is the best. Stockfish always finds a way to make you pay for exposing your queen so early. And before you know it, it's move 9, and you're already trying to figure out how all this ties back to the day your in-laws moved in. Yes, but that's not me. I'm a decent human being, and also my opponent played d5 and I captured. Bishop takes g4 is the whole idea behind d5. And after queen g3 hitting the e5 square, my opponent starts seeing all types of ghosts, and plays c6. I captured the pawn, the queen has to shield, and this is where my stable upbringing takes the steering wheel. I have a very healthy ability to shift from ultra-aggressive to ultra-defensive in the blink of an eye. A very useful skill, on the rare occasion my wife raises a good point in an argument. But in this case, I see the danger to my king, and I know immediately getting rid of the queens is the best move on the board. I'm not saying you'll never reach this level of lucidity and mindfulness. I'm just saying it's not very easy, when your parents raised your sister as an only child. King takes. And after the bishop retreats, it's move 9. And believe it or not, I've already equalized all the weaknesses created by the special needs variation. I do have a small problem to solve on f2. But I find the best move, f3, forking the knight and bishop, but I had to calculate my response after knight f2 anyway, the move played in the game. My solution was to capture the bishop. Because after knight takes rook, and knight h3 controlling the f2 square, I had a simple question. How does the knight escape? Yes, delayed gratification. You allow a little discomfort now, and then reap the rewards later. An understandably foreign concept if waiting for the next train just doesn't cross your mind. And for all my London system players, good God, look at all these men. But jokes aside, if any of you guys are watching, how on earth are you producing so many high-level grandmasters? It's insane. There truly must be something in the air. Well, anyway, you're watching a mortal chess game. I am known to ascend to super GM strength whenever the situation requires. And after rook e8, I unleash a series of disgusting engine moves, all aimed at capturing this knight without any annoying rook checks on the first rank. And eventually, we get to rook takes h1, and a lovely position from which I can press for a win. Some people think this is cheating. It's certainly in the gray area, because torturing 2000s like this, when my natural strength is somewhere close to 2300, is nasty. But to those people, I say, tell Lee Chess to bring back the 200 rating points I lost, when my wife got promoted twice in 3 months. Yeah, otherwise, after a5, your poor 2000s will continue to face my wrath with moves like rook f1, hitting the f7 square, to which my opponent responds with bishop takes c3. Too easy. Too easy. I could take on f7 check, then discover the check. And after I recapture with the bishop on c3, you are not surviving 5 more moves against me. I decided to prolong my opponent's torture with bishop takes c3. And no, it's not because I totally forgot I had something on f7. I would never play like that, and then go on to post it. And the next few moves, where I totally missed the idea of rook e2 check, and then promptly toss myself in front of the rook takes e5 train. Well, I have to be honest. All those years of watching Gotham chess are probably catching up to me. But with knight e5, it looks like my level is still way above 2000. And we find ourselves in this endgame, 1 minute on his clock, 16 seconds on mine. And that's when I decide to shift gears. I am the kind of guy who only has 2 speeds, slow, and then lightning fast. Your grandmother can confirm this. But within a few seconds, I collect all free pawns, deal with the annoying passed pawn on the a file, and still have enough time to punish blunders like rook b7. And all that is followed by a painful pin on the knight and king. And before you know it, this is the position on the board. Such is my capability. Yes, all those moves and all those positions in 15 seconds. I can go above and beyond for your grandmother. But I hope this serves as a lesson, that yes, you can play trash chess openings and still win, if you have both parents like me, but aggressively moving around your queen in the opening instead of castling will almost always land you in hot soup. So, if you made it to the end, please comment stable or unstable, depending on your upbringing. And then your rating. I want to see something.